quite orthopedic. Like,
well, orthopedic chic is very much a trend.
is it a thing?
Look
I
at
mean,
hello. Welcome to the SheerLuxe Team Podcast with me, Charlotte Collins. This week I'm joined by Heather Steele, Harriet Russell and Lu Hough. Hi everyone.
Hello.
We're quite far apart today, but for those watching, it's because Prego over here needed some comfort. So.
Sorry. I feel like I ruined the seats for everybody else.
No.
Because,
They've missed the 15 minutes of footage of you just trying to sit down.
Yeah, it's the good B-roll. I'm very tired today because I'm 105 years old because I got back from Ibiza 3 days ago and I'm still so tired from that holiday.
You must have had a good time.
It was so fun. I think most of the tiredness is from lots of late, irritating flights. But I just feel like I need to say to podcast listeners, because I've spent a year being like, oh God, I hope Ibiza weather is good in October. And I mean, it was literally summertime there. Wow. It was scorching hot. So yay for my clever friend who...
Did she have the best time?
She had the best time. You know, like, obviously every bride is super happy, but you know when you're looking at someone and you're just like, you are like glow. Since her hen, she's been just like the happiest, glowiest person, and it's just
amazing.
So lovely to
that
see.
To me really is what makes a wedding. I think when you look at the bride and see and groom, obviously, and you see how happy they are and how in love they are.
Yeah.
And like, I know sometimes you can see brides just get so stressed about so many things and you can see them going through their tick box and I don't know.
Yeah. Or brides get like really drunk or something, whereas she was just like effervescing, you know, just like super happy.
Was it a big wedding?
So lovely to see. It was about 150 people, I think. It was just so beautiful and so much fun. Just like a really good wedding.
And any tips for people on how to dress for a winter wedding, but I guess in hotter
It was a
times?
funny one because it was Ibiza, but it was black tie, but it was really hot. So it was sort of a case of anything goes.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it was black tie, so, you know, people tended to not be in kind of... Everybody was in long. Yeah. But I think Ibiza black tie is different to London black tie. So people kind of knew to go a bit kind of floatier.
I mean, you wore one of the party dresses of the season.
It was amazing.
So the dress I wore was from River Island. If you want to see it, it is in our shoot for River Island that ran last week for their amazing new party wear collection. It's because they do River Island Studio and they do a couple of drops every year. And honestly, I rate it so highly. It is so good. Last year's party wear was also amazing. And yeah, I did. It's the pink dress that the second it arrived in the office, I was like, bingo, that's the dress for an Ibiza wedding.
And how was the headpiece?
I know. So I didn't manage to get the headpiece because as viewers will see in upcoming behind the scenes, I'd seen this incredible Zara headpiece that was like these amazing flowers. It was somewhere between a kind of turban and a headband.
Very cool.
So tried to get it the day before I flew by dragging the team who thought we were going early to a Levi's dinner to Zara instead. And we couldn't find it. However, I found this insane necklace from Zara instead, which is like 2 layers of chunky gold chain with like what looked like kind of sweeties. It's the kind of necklace you would get if you bought like a head to toe like Disney princess outfit.
Nice.
Like in the Disney store they probably sell it. It's that kind of vibe, like big colourful jewels in like hearts and stuff. Anyway, it was perfect with the dress. So and yeah, thanks to Polly for lending me her mega gold Loft Lorandals. I've got the ones with the bow, but they felt a bit fussy.
And you went solo?
I went stag, which was guys, so fun. Like that is obviously great, but it was quite a long wedding and he has a cut-off point and I have less of a cut-off point, so it meant I was just liberated. And when you're with all your best friends, it doesn't really matter anyway. So proper girl time. It was heaven. Yeah, I did so much laughing till I cried and laughing till my stomach hurts, and you don't do that every day, do you?
No, and I think when you get that time with your girlfriends as well, it's so 100%. Special.
So yeah, especially because so many of mine live abroad, and yeah, my schoolgirls are a group of 10 and we haven't all been together since April 2019 for somebody else's wedding. So that's me. I'm really tired today, but I fly to New York tomorrow, so hey ho, happy days.
Tired again.
I know, tired again. Can't catch a break, poor me.
Jet lag won't count because you already feel tired anyway.
Exactly,
just roll through it.
And also, it's quite a sweet spot of a week because their clocks haven't gone back yet, so it's actually only a 4-hour time difference.
How did you guys find the clocks going back this weekend? I woke up so early and was so confused. It was like 6:45 and I was like, on Sunday morning and could not get back to sleep again. I was like, oh, it's the clocks, how irritating.
Yeah, but it still means you had quite a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
But
I do that thing for like a really long time where you're like, okay, but it's this time, but it's actually this time.
I'll be doing that all week.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw on Instagram this morning there was a meme that said there are 2 types of people: the ones who will live with an incorrect clock on their oven and car for the next 6 months, and the ones who don't.
You 100% live with it.
What, with the incorrect clock?
Yeah.
No, she
Oh, do you really? Yeah, I would have thought you
She's
would
in
be in
the
that
other
camp.
camp.
Yeah.
But I totally agree, there are two camps.
Yeah, 100%. It's very
Yeah.
fiddly to work out. Change your up in your car. Harriet, how was your weekend?
Yeah, lovely. I feel like I had 2 really dream days, actually, although quite full on for a weekend. It's one of those things where everything's good, but then you get to Sunday night and you think, well, that was exhausting. So Saturday, I went to the Cézanne exhibition at Tate Modern, which
nice.
was
I want to
lovely.
go to that.
It's really
Yes, I
good.
do
It's
too.
really good. And then Spring for dinner.
Lovely.
Lovely. I know.
What did you have?
What did I have? So for a starter, I had crab.
Nice.
And for main, I had pasta, which was with white truffle butter. Oh my God, it was possibly one of the most insane things I've ever eaten.
Was ginger cake on the menu? That was the question.
It was.
It was?
It was.
Did you have it?
No, I didn't. I didn't. The pasta was heavy enough. I felt like I should probably quit while I was ahead. But
I've got a breakfast there on Wednesday.
Oh, dream.
And then we're actually going to Hatfield for our anniversary this weekend.
oh, lovely.
And I'm so excited about the cake.
Yes.
I'm hoping it's ginger
Heaven.
cake. Yeah.
Heaven. And
Yeah.
Sunday?
And then Sunday, I went to the Everyman to see Banshees of Inisherin.
How was it?
Very interesting. The plot is incredibly simple. It's set in 1920s Ireland during the Civil War on an island, Inisherin, which is just off the coast of the mainland. And 2 best friends. The elder is played by Brendan Gleeson. The younger is Colin Farrell. Brendan Gleeson says to Colin Farrell one day, out of the blue, I don't want to be your friend anymore. And from what you can tell, they've been best friends for decades. So it's extremely hurtful to Colin Farrell. He can't understand and he can't process it, so he doesn't accept it. And he attempts to try and smooth it over or like apologise for whatever he's done. And in the end, Brendan Gleeson, this is all part of the premise, it's not a spoiler, but Brendan Gleeson says to him, if you talk to me one more time, every time you talk to me, I'm going to cut off one of my fingers.
God.
I know. So you think that is a wild premise. And I won't spoil, obviously, the sort of unfolding of it all. But obviously, Colin Farrell is like highly disturbed by this and doesn't understand what's gone wrong. It should have been a play, not a film. And when you consider that Martin McDonagh really cut his teeth in Irish theatre, which is like a whole establishment in itself, I think you can understand sort of where I'm coming from in that criticism. And I'm amazed so far that it's got the reception it has.
It's been like, I mean, critics
stars
are
everywhere.
obsessed. Yeah.
Critics are obsessed. They say it's going to sweep the board at the Oscars. Best actor for Colin Farrell, which I think, like totally deserved. But I just can't believe it's going to be a mainstream
Because
hit.
it's just not very cinematic.
It is highly cinematic, actually, because the landscape in it is insane. It doesn't necessarily make me want to go to Inisherin, but I can appreciate the beauty of it. So in that sense, yes, there's plenty of like cinematic elements to it, but it's actually the characterization, I think, and then the somewhat lack of plot. It's more of a study of characters.
Because I don't think it's a spoiler to say, because I haven't seen it, but I've read quite a lot about it, that it's about, what it comes down to is it's a kind of mental health, midlife crisis type thing. You know, there's not some big plot twist in which it turns out Colin Farrell has done something. It's just about Brendan Gleeson's character having a bit of a wobble about his own, you know, it's an existential crisis, isn't it?
Totally.
So therefore I understand it's not about some big murderous reveal. It's just a kind of, it's about humanity and emotions and stuff like
and again, this is not a spoiler, but Brendan Gleeson tries to sort of justify this sudden termination of friendship at the beginning by saying, you know, I'm older, I've literally got a handful of years left and I can't spend any of them listening to your banality basically anymore. So it's this, I think, you know, the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking about all of these questions were like coming into my mind of like, what do we owe each other in terms of
kind of the
friendship?
point, isn't it?
Which is exactly the point. Do we owe our friends anything beyond a certain age? Do we have to continue being aligned with people who we just don't feel we have anything in common with anymore? Do we outgrow people? You know, all of these like very
deep.
existential questions, all very deep. And then I sort of got it. I understood the point, but again, I still am going to stand strong and say that is a play. That is not always like best translated in film.
Got you.
And there are certain scenes, actually not even to do with the main characters, just these little bits of dialogue that are like devastating in film, but they'd be like 10 times more devastating on stage, because you would literally see like the raw human reactions sort of live in front of you, and you'd be thinking, oh my God, don't say that to her.
So would you recommend it or not?
I'm not going to be like, everyone has to see this film. If you're up for something a bit different that's going to make you sort of look at him in a different way. And we were just saying off camera, but they have appeared in other films together in Bruges. Then yeah, you may well love it.
Okay. Good to know. Heather, anything? How are you? Hi. Anything to recommend?
I actually had a very nice weekend in London with various different people. So on Friday night, I took my parents to the theatre. I bought them both tickets to go see The Upstart Crow, which is, the BBC sort of Shakespeare, David Mitchell TV programme that Ben Elton's done, and it's now on stage at the moment. So I took them to go see that on Friday night, which was really fun.
Is David Mitchell in it?
He is, yeah. And Gemma Whelan as well, who's in Game of Thrones as well, but also plays Kate in the TV show. So that was one of those sort of 90 minutes with an interval, out of there already by
Love
9:30, pile into the pub afterwards.
Did they enjoy it?
They loved it, yeah.
Good.
Dad's like a huge fan, so it was like very much his thing. So that was good. Went to Joe Allen for dinner before, which was really fun. And then on Saturday, I went to the Charles Dickens Museum, which I'd never been to before, but my mum wanted to go. So we went there. That's in Bloomsbury. Well worth a visit.
Why did I read about that? This weekend?
I think they had a sort of Halloween-y, sort of spooky style exhibition on,
that's-
which is why we ended up going. But no, the whole thing is really interesting. Got a new appreciation for Dickens I didn't have before. And then we went to the booking office in St Pancras Hotel afterwards for a bit of lunch and a few cocktails, which was really, really nice.
Proper London
Very
weekend.
Yeah.
Did you stay in London or did you stay in Brighton?
I was training and doing all sorts in between. So and then I ended up coming to Wimbledon actually on the Sunday. I spent a lot of time on the train. So I came to Wimbledon on Sunday to see some of my friends for a roast, which was my first roast of the year, of the season. Went to the Dog and Fox in Wimbledon Village, which was really nice. Would heartily recommend the roasts. And then got the train back. And
Lovely.
it was great.
Proper October weekend.
Yeah, it felt, if only it had been a bit colder. I really want to wear knitwear and coats
Oh my God,
now.
yesterday was 22 degrees.
Yeah.
Everyone's out in t-shirts.
Saturday was ridiculous. Literally ridiculous.
Like we booked this roast in ages ago, and then you're like turning up in a sort of like very thin dress, up that hill from Wimbledon Station as well. Like,
And that's why I just can't. We were saying before. I mean, today we were recording this on the 31st of October. Like the idea that yesterday was 8 weeks to Christmas Day. I mean, I drove down St John's Wood High Street last night. The lights are, or not just up but on. Like it's tomorrow. The Christmas adverts will all start.
Of
all
course,
begin.
yeah.
And it's like what in my head? It's basically still like it's like Indian summer.
Yeah, it's
I'm
crazy.
robbed of my favourite season.
I remember going to like multiple fireworks nights and literally wearing so many layers. I wearing like tights and then leggings and like 3 pairs of socks and like.
I remember abandoning bonfire nights because it's been
So
too cold.
I know.
Well, I was saying to friends because they were excited about bonfire night. I was like, everyone's going to be not wanting to stand anywhere near the actual bonfire.
Yeah, so true.
It's like, it's too hot. Like, standing far away.
Actually, at the wedding they had sparklers, by the way.
Oh,
fun
fun.
edition.
Oh, fun.
Haven't seen that before. It smells good as well.
Oh, yeah.
Lou, how are you? How was your weekend?
Yeah, it was good. Very chilled. We watched The Good Nurse on Saturday night.
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
Has anyone seen that?
I'm not
yet?
brave enough.
Oh no, why?
Well, because I know what it's about.
Okay.
And to me, I find that particular subject quite distressing.
Yeah.
It might be done really well and really sort of, I was going to say tastefully. That's
Tastefully,
probably
yeah,
not
no,
the right
that's
word. But anyway, you tell me.
So it is based on a true story, and it tells the story of, I think, one of like America's essentially most prolific serial killers, and it stars Eddie Redmayne and Jessica Chastain, who play nurses in a hospital, and Jessica, they kind of do night shifts at a certain hospital, and turns out Eddie Redmayne has moved. I think he's been in 9 different hospitals, and a suspicious death comes up, and the FBI are investigating and look into Eddie Redmayne's
You keep saying Redmayne.
Redmayne?
Redmayne.
Redmayne. I think
It's
the
cute.
Y is
Eddie
silent.
Redmayne.
When I was
It's
saying it, that didn't sound right.
The first time I thought it was wrong, and then it kept happening. Redmayne.
It kept happening.
I'm not great at surnames. Eddie Redmayne.
Yeah, like sweet, but no.
Anyway, the police are investigating his past, and nobody's really coming forth with any information. The hospitals are being very suspicious. Nobody will speak up or give any sort of evidence, and it kind of unfolds that way. I'm not sure how much I can say that it's a spoiler.
Well, I saw him on Graham Norton, and I think it's pretty well known that he was a prolific serial murderer.
I was going to say, to call it a prolific serial killer in like the blurb sort of gives the game away, does it not?
Yeah.
I mean, that it kind of is the storyline. It's weird. Like, weird when you watch it, you know what the ending is, I guess.
I suppose the thing is to watch how they get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like how they uncover it.
Exactly. And I think kind of almost what you were saying, it's also about their relationship and their friendship, and almost this, like, is there this kind of emotional side to him? She has her own health issues, and she basically has got some heart problems, and is but she needs to stay at the hospital for 6 months in order to get her health insurance. So she can't tell the hospital that what is going on with her health wise, and he kind of helps her and is a lifeline to her and helps with her children. So they kind of build up this kind of alliance, but equally then she kind of knows what's going on, sees what he's doing. Gosh. So it's kind of this weird, you kind of go on this journey of like thinking, like seeing this softer side to him, unsure whether that's true or if he's trying to just get to her.
I guess it raises similar questions almost to the film that Harriet was talking about.
And also it raises this thing that when you read stories like this in the paper and you think, why did no one say anything? Why did no one raise the alarm? Yeah. It proves that there are always these like layers, and you don't know what are going into people's lives to make them behave in certain ways.
But yeah, I actually really enjoyed it.
I have something to recommend, something completely different, called Kingdom of Dreams, which is a new 4-part documentary series on Sky about fashion in the 80s and the 90s, the big players, and it's sort of told from a business perspective. It's about the rise of LVMH, what is now Kering, but started as something very different, and through the lens of the acquisitions of Dior, Gucci, Saint Laurent, and obviously then within that, the designers as well. So the first episode is all about John Galliano and a little bit about McQueen, and about how they are brought in respectively to Dior and Givenchy back in the late 80s. And that's, that's all done by LVMH, and how they're brought in by Bernard Arnault, who is at the very kind of beginning of his LVMH journey. And then the second episode goes on to be about Tom Ford at Gucci, how that's then, brought up. I mean, I won't spoil it, but it's a crazy story, but how Francois Pinault, who is the founder of what was then known as PPR, which, by the way, the R stood for La Redoute. Did you know that? What is now Kering. Anyway, they swoop in, they buy it, it's all a load of drama. Anyway, I'm not explaining this very well at all, but the point is, if you love fashion, if you want to know a bit about the business behind fashion, how these brands became to be the super brands that they are today, I mean, the point is that so many of them were fledgling, failing, not doing very well, and those two super groups came in, swooped them up and made them what they are today, with some kind of clever employments and some clever hiring and firing. So it's really, I've loved it so far. Really juicy, really brilliant, great talking heads. They've really mined a lot of archives for some amazing footage of original shows and talking heads back in the day. And I mean, there's so much Anna Wintour, because obviously she's such a kind of key part of all those stories. And it's just a lovely watch. I really recommend it. Really interesting.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
I remember seeing it advertised a few months ago and thinking that's got us all over it. And it reminded me to watch that McQueen documentary again, because I still just think it's absolutely amazing.
Yes, amazing, that
so
documentary.
Good. And also, so Marc Jacobs features quite heavily in the second one, because, again, it's all about Louis Vuitton. And did you know that Louis Vuitton was only handbags up until the early, I think it was 97 or 98, like that's when they introduced ready to wear. Gosh. With the hiring of Marc Jacobs, because that is what they had seen Tom Ford do at Gucci. Kering were the investors there, and they kind of, his first runway show, it was all about like the handbags were the it things, but it was like, oh, but with the outfit, they wear the whole thing together. So that's why they brought Marc Jacobs over to Louis Vuitton to start ready to wear, to kind of make you want the whole thing. Anyway, it's fascinating. So I really, really recommend watching it. I think everyone here would love it. We're going to come to questions a little bit later, but first, I need a drum roll. It's a new segment. Thank you for the SheerLuxe team podcast. We are sadly retiring the brief, the daily news in brief. This will be going out on Friday, which will be the last day of the brief. That is the brief newsletter and the podcast. So for those who subscribe to get their daily fix of what's going on in the world, we do apologise. We're very sad to see it go. It's been a beloved institution here at SheerLuxe, but we're a busy team, and there's lots of people who tell the news better than we do, really. So onwards and upwards to better things. But we did think there would be a big audience out there who are missing their fix of news. So we thought we'd introduce a new segment into the team podcast. Nobody fear, nobody flee. There's not going to be any hardcore politics and economic analysis going on. But we did think it would be nice to chat a little bit about things that are going on. So to that end, we've all come armed with, Harriet, you also have
I do.
Have a weekend paper with you. Heather too. Everybody does. So we've all come armed with an article, with a news article from the weekend papers that struck us as good conversation topics. I'm going to come to you first, Heather.
Damn it, I was like, mine's the least hard-hitting one.
Oh, well, I'm not, don't worry, mine is not wildly hard-hitting either.
No.
Go on.
That's probably the most timely, but
Yeah.
you go.
We don't know what mine is yet.
That's true.
Yes.
I know what the others are, though.
Okay, right, go on, Heather.
So this is a selfish reason, really, but it's from the Sunday Times, the home section. The title, Wander Wall to Wall, and it's about carpets are back, everyone. So I'm basically... The carpets in our flat are awful, but they're obviously very expensive to replace. In an ideal situation, we'd try and sort of do something with the floorboards or something like that, but because we're a top floor flat, it just feels very selfish to kind of do that to the people living below. Can't afford to get like the really sort of soundproofed, insulated wooden boards. So carpets it is, but like this feature says, they're one of those things that people don't really think are very attractive or cool anymore. It's all about sort of wooden floors or tiles and some like strategic rugs. But no, apparently carpets are back.
But this is suggesting that you could carpet your entire house, right?
Yeah.
Like kitchen, bathroom, the lot.
The lot.
I love a carpeted bathroom.
No, you
Yeah.
don't.
I love it like on my feet,
Yeah.
but like you don't actually want a carpeted bathroom.
No,
Sure.
I would. If I could, I would.
The reality of
Soggy.
like splashing.
No, that's what bath mats are for. You obviously put the mat on the carpet.
That is weird.
That is just so my grandparents. I mean,
Yeah.
no
I know, but
disrespect
I
to
think
them,
that's
but
what I love about it. It's like the retroness of it, and like it's like I'm in a 1920s boudoir or something.
Yeah, my
I love
grandparents'
it.
best, and they've also got a toilet seat that looks like a fish tank. Do you know what I mean? Like in my head, those two things are.
So I was like,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Do you remember
I have no idea what
You
you're
do.
talking
Next time,
about.
like the loo seat is like sort of
Like aquatic
Yeah,
themed.
exactly.
It's sort of
Oh.
semi-transparent, and it looks like it's like a Nemo scene.
yeah, I know.
Do you remember
exactly
you used to be
the
able
one.
to get like woolen covers for the top of your
Yes.
loose?
Oh,
yeah, and then
Actually, I wouldn't mind that.
And then like a bit that went around the bottom, like a
Yeah.
U that goes around
But
the
those
Still have those.
I have a
Yeah.
pedestal mat.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think that's very old school.
Yeah, but I have tiles, and they are so fucking
Yeah, it's
cold
true. I
in
have
the
one
morning.
too, which is
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have slippers?
Yeah, I do, but I don't know. I've grown up with them, I guess.
Yeah.
It would not occur to me not to. And
Fascinating.
I know.
Do you have a valance on your bed as well?
yeah.
No, you don't. Do you? I quite like balance, but I don't have one.
Yeah, I do.
But my bed it's from Anne Soda bed, and it's set up very, very high. It's like literally one I have to like climb into, like the Princess and the Pea. And
Sweet.
I know, I love it. It's like my princess. I literally have a cushion on it that says princess. I have literally like no interior taste, clearly.
Your bag of petit pois next to your bed as well.
But yeah, it has to have a valance on it because it's like cast iron, the frame, so it would look super ugly without it. And
Okay.
you'd see all my crap stored on
Yes,
I
if you're
get it.
using it as a-
If you're using it as a storage space
Yeah.
underneath, then yeah, fair enough.
So what
It's
do you
much better than it sounds.
So, sorry, do you have a bath mat of any variety? Just not one that goes around the
Yeah,
loo?
like
same.
but one that is for the bath, not
yeah.
a loo.
Yeah, me too.
Am I the only one with a pedestal mat?
I think I've definitely had one before, but I think at the moment, like because of the proximity of the loo to the bath, it just wouldn't.
But like, I don't have one in my
Work.
downstairs loo, for example.
Oh no, I wouldn't bother.
I
no.
can't think of a time where I've seen one in the last.
Yeah, I agree. I think
5
it's a
years.
slight relic.
It's probably quite 90s, but to me, it's
Can you send
like,
a picture? I'm so intrigued.
You know what it, you know what it looks
No,
like?
I know, but
Google it.
but I like.
It wouldn't look weird to you. You would look at it and you wouldn't think it looks retro.
I agree.
at
I don't
all.
think they actually look retro. It just feels like a retro
Okay,
thing to
yeah.
own.
Like, on a cold winter morning when you're going for your wee, you probably want nice warm feet.
Honestly, and
on
my
the
bathroom,
tiles.
it's hard to explain, but mine's a Victorian terrace, and years ago, before I moved in, they extended the back of it. So everyone's en suites are in this extension, and it is so cold. It
Okay,
is so
fair.
cold in the morning.
Fair
I
enough.
couldn't even imagine putting my bed on the floor.
All right.
That way frostbite lies.
Back to carpets. So
carpets.
what else does the article say? What kind? Like, I can't envisage what a chic carpeted, like entirely carpeted house looks like.
I think it's more about the fact that people might have usually used, carpets maybe in a living room or a bedroom, but this is like, no, do it absolutely everywhere. And I think it's more the fact that it's like carpet's cool again.
Yeah.
Because
And make
people
more
have-
of a statement with it than go
Yeah,
with the
'cause I
beige.
think it says that, since the 90s, it's everyone's seen carpets as really old-fashioned. So now it's like, actually, forget that idea. You don't have to have polished wooden floors, or
Yeah.
whatever, you can.
Well,
Like,
I
carpets
suspect.
are cool.
Well, there must be sort of an insulation argument for it as well, surely,
That's
because in the
the
cost of
other
living
one.
crisis,
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot warmer in your house to have a carpet than it is to have
Yeah.
a wooden floor.
They also say that, at the intro of the piece.
The other thing I would say is, so I think I referenced it on my podcast with Georgie, but there's been this big trend for what are they calling it? Old money aesthetic, basically about how all that kind of like Ralph Lauren, Old New York Hotel kind of aesthetic has been everywhere for the last. Whatever,
Plaza
6 months or
chic.
so. Plaza chic, exactly. Oh, Plaza core, I think they call it.
Of course it's core, it's got
Yeah,
to go.
exactly. Anyway, but so the Rob Report wrote a whole long thing about it, and one of the key points that they made in that was that if everything's neutral and everything's kind of clean, then you see it, that then it's not very hard wearing because you see stains, you see marks, you see tears, whatever. Whereas if you go for this kind of chintzy, over the top, floral printed thing, then actually it's much easier to kind of hide when things go wrong. So actually, a printed carpet.
Yeah.
I've got cream kind of ribbed carpet up my whole
no, I
house.
would not be doing
yeah,
that.
I mean, it's
Especially
not
with a dog.
well, I know. Well, it's good because you don't see his hair,
That's good.
but you wouldn't in a printed carpet either. So
No, that's good. Yeah, my friend bought somewhere recently and her carpet was swirl central and she got rid of it. This is a few years ago, and now I think she's like, oh, damn, I should have
quite
kept it
cool.
because it's cool again to have those sort of 70s.
Everything comes back
carpets.
round again.
It does,
does.
yeah, but where do you stash said carpet for a few years?
Yeah.
until
I think
it's
you live
cool
with it,
again?
don't you? You layer it with rugs in the meantime.
Exactly. But no, I was pleased it came at a good time because it's time. Next year, hopefully, we'll get the new carpet somewhere, and this has given me some ideas.
There's nothing quite like the feel of a new carpet.
Oh,
is
so
there?
good.
Smell. I love the smell of a new carpet. Yeah. Harriet, what have you brought along?
I have brought along possibly the most topical in the sense that it refers to Rishi Sunak, who is our new Prime Minister.
Yes.
Fifth
now.
one. I was reading, there was a great thing on Twitter, I think it was, that said, if anyone needs to understand the chaos of the last sort of 6 years, we had 5 prime ministers between 1939 and 1987 or something like that. And we've had 5 prime ministers since 2016.
That's wild.
And that sort of gets the message across about how much turbulence there's been in government.
But we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that part. We're going to talk about the fact that
Shoes.
Yeah.
But they're hard-hitting topics, I promise you.
well, I think it does actually raise quite an interesting question, which is that the Telegraph wrote this sort of tongue-in-cheek piece about Rishi Sunak and his love of Prada.
Oh my god, it actually is about shoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seriously, there was so some people have said his decision to wear £490 Prada shoes on almost every sort of official event is not appropriate given the cost of living crisis. Other people, including some of these commentators, have said, oh, it's great. Everyone in the cabinet loves Prada. They're all such stylish men. If you'd actually seen the Prada shoes, I would...
Yeah, I don't think
not
of the
particularly good
cabinet being a
ones.
bunch of stylish men.
Doesn't he wear a Cuban heel because he's very teeny tiny?
They've got a rather thick sole. That's all I'll say.
Is there a picture?
Chunky shoes.
There's only a black and white one here, but they're not.
They don't look
something
great.
Yeah,
that's
it's
gonna
cut off how thick the sole is.
Yes,
You can't
yes.
tell.
Well, you can see here. It's
There's
Okay.
there's a little bit of height there.
Okay.
no disrespect to Prada, but they're quite orthopedic. Like,
Well, orthopedic chic is very much a
is
trend.
it a thing?
I mean,
Hey.
hello.
Yeah, Chanel have done it better, is all I'll say. But yeah, so I just thought it was interesting though that everyone's like, this is all up for debate when it's men. It's like, is it cool? Is it not? Does it make him relatable? Does it not? The minute Theresa May wears a pair of leather trousers, heaven forbid, on the front of an FT magazine,
Which she
it's-
looked mega in.
Yeah,
did
she
look
did.
good.
She looked awesome in those. The Joseph,
She gets
weren't they?
crucified.
Yes.
Absolutely crucified.
Double standard. Well, first,
Yeah.
two levels. I would like to talk about the men and the women thing. I would also like to talk about the appropriateness of the price point. Because I think the key question is he wearing the same pair of investment loafers over and over again, or
Yeah.
is he wearing a different pair of Prada shoes every single time?
I'm going to say by the state of this picture, they're the same pair. He's
Yeah,
mad.
definitely they're the same.
in which
Yeah.
case,
Cost per wear.
Yeah.
cost per wear, invest in one great pair of shoes. However, there's a cost of living crisis. A lot of people can't eat. There's a lot of scrutiny on his personal wealth regardless.
I was going to
Oh,
say,
yeah.
Is it the best decision?
I
Probably
was going to
not.
say that point. I think if his family had not been the subject of tax evasion and other financial kind of irregularities, then people probably
But I
wouldn't
love-
be
you should be their
focusing.
spin doctor. Financial irregularities.
Nice.
Beautifully said.
I mean, it's just funny how people sort of come to his defence. William Hague apparently said, he's not blingy at all. London is full of people walking around in Prada. And I thought, that's not true.
And also that's a terrible defence given the
Terrible.
nature of the criticism.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that helps. Heather, where do you stand on the whole we can talk about men's. I mean, because Harriet, your point was kind of that we're like, he was being glorified in this article, right? Isn't it fabulous? He's wearing Prada. Isn't that great to have somebody so chic who cares about the way they look in government? Do you agree with that? I suppose that's the question. Do you agree with that? Or do you think that really politicians should be focusing on other bigger, more important things than the way they look and what they're wearing?
Yes, ultimately they should be focused on the big picture stuff, of course. But I think, if people have already got these nice items in their wardrobe, then yes, you could wear that. Especially as a woman, loads of people, maybe more so in American politics, but everyone was always applauding, Michelle Obama and other people for dressing amazingly.
Well, she's not
and being
actually a politician, we should say, because people will point that out, right?
Of course, but it's still all part and parcel. I know that's a presidency,
She's a public figure,
yeah, in the world of politics.
But I would look at AOC or Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I mean, like what you wear.
Yeah, it says a lot about you,
Right.
and it can make statements about who you are, your party, your politics, and I guess this is why, perhaps, with expensive shoes from the Tory party during the cost of living crisis, it's drawing criticism.
And making the wrong statement.
But would you
Yeah.
say that, like, on the flip side, that people are very quick to react in a negative way? Like, if he was dressed appallingly as well.
Whenever Boris Johnson turned up looking like he'd been dragged through a hedge
Yeah.
backwards, everyone was like, could he not just respect the occasion? Things like the
Totally.
remembrance stuff in November. He would turn up without looking like he put a comb through his hair. But of course, the flip side argument is, that's part of his brand, is this dishevelled thing, so that people can never quite estimate what his mood is or whatever.
I think there's a really bad culture in the UK in which we assume, and I think female politicians, perhaps more than men, think that in order to be taken seriously, you have to look as uninterested in your appearance as possible. And I think that's a real failing of the British political system because, as you said, women in America, but American politicians don't seem to take that stance. It's such a big part of, who you are, what you, fashion is the second biggest industry in this entire country. Like, it doesn't have to be about buying the most expensive things or being, but the assumption that caring about the way you look equals vanity or distraction,
totally.
Yeah.
I think is so wrong and so dated.
Yeah, totally
You can
agree
do
with that.
both.
Of course you can do both. But
And you can have an interest in it without being vacuous.
exactly. And the suggestion that you have to, in order to kind of be impressive, have to go in the complete other direction and only wear average things or not have if I was a prime minister or if I was a woman in power, I would want to be in the sharpest suits with the best blow dry, and because that's all part of being taken seriously, unfortunately. The way you look is how you present yourself to the world.
Well, like any other job, you feel more powerful or confident when you're like looking or feeling at your best. So I can imagine why that would be considered. I always think of Theresa May as well, like, not questioning her politics or anything like that, but she always had a few of those Vivienne Westwood suits and, like, maybe not Vivienne ones as well, but just always those sort of tartan suits that were really well fitted that she always looked really good in. I guess when you then compare that to Liz Truss, who was trying to emulate Thatcher's, pussy bow blouses and all of that kind of thing, like, people are still trying to make a statement in their own way.
Totally.
But, like Harriet says, I guess it's a...
Yeah, and I feel like women,
Different-
the sad thing is that women can't win because either you try and cultivate an image like Liz Truss did, or you try and support British designers, which Theresa May did, or you try and go down the disinterested route like other politicians who I won't name because I don't think they're necessarily doing it out of any deliberate way. They can't win.
Exactly.
And that's the sadness for me.
It's so true.
It's more like the infighting, yet again, that they pit women against women more than the male women thing, I think.
Yeah, I think it was so right. I do think Rishi would be better off just buying a pair of M&S shoes for the time being.
For the time being.
This is called The New Rules of Dining Out. It was on the front page of the Life and Arts section of the FT this weekend. And it is about the changing habits of diners in London and the time that people would like to go out for dinner. So it basically says that pre-pandemic, it was a good hack for critics or for anybody looking to get into a hot new London opening to go for 6 o'clock because that was the time that nobody wanted to eat. Obviously prime dining was kind of 7 to 9 or 7:30 to 9:30, whatever. But that now, post-pandemic, our habits have completely changed and that is the hot time to be dining. Londoners are eating earlier and earlier. There used to be this kind of graveyard shift. Pre-theatre was perhaps the only occasion on which you'd be pulling in people at that time. But now... apparently less. So I don't know about you guys. This dropped on Saturday morning, and I went out for dinner at 6:45 on Saturday night.
I bumped
so in this
into you
camp.
at a restaurant a few weeks ago and we both had a 6:30 booking. So.
Exactly. So I don't know how you guys felt. For me, I it is certainly a post-pandemic thing. I used to just run around all the time, and now I'm like, no, I want to be at home. I want to be in bed. So even if I'm going out for dinner, unless it's like an occasion, I want to be home for 9 latest, because I want to be able to keep my bed, keep those non-negotiables that we keep talking about, those things that I don't want to compromise on. And for me, that means an early supper. But is that really sad? They were talking in this feature as well about how really this is going to massively impact restaurants, because you need to be filling tables all night long and not just until 8:30, 9, and they can't afford to be having people dropping off between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock. So do you guys agree that early is better, or not 100%. Really?
100%. I would not, if I was trying to book a restaurant and they only had like 8:30 was the earliest reservation, I would not go.
So what time is your cutoff?
I think 8 is my cutoff, but I think probably only on the weekends. On a weekday, that's late.
So I think my cutoff would be 8:30 on a Saturday.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I'd go a bit late if I really wanted to go. I'd go at 8:45.
Yeah, I'd go 9 if I really wanted to go.
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah.
But then that's like not getting your main till 10 p.m.
Yeah.
I can't get my head around that.
Well, above all of this, personally, my favourite time to dine would be lunchtime.
I was going to say a late lunch that rolls until 7 is my heaven.
And especially if it's a restaurant that you really want to try. I actually feel by late, I remember sitting at Core by Claire Smith, which is a 3 Michelin star restaurant. I don't think it was 3 at the time. It was when it had just opened. And it was like a 4-hour dinner. And I think we sat down at 7:30. And by 11, we were just like desperate to leave. Like absolutely, didn't really enjoy it. So desperate to go home because it all just gets a little late. So actually, I think especially if it's lots of courses, lunchtime, heaven.
Yeah, I love
so
late
nice.
lunch, but so many restaurants they like shut down.
Yeah, I think again post-pandemic, it's just so hard to get, like, hospitality's really struggling to get chefs front of house, everything, and diners to come in all day. So I think there's that's why loads of places aren't open on a Monday, Tuesday anymore.
And when Sky Gingell came in a few weeks ago to do the podcast, she said she's also closing on a Friday now, because I think not evening but daytime, because she said no one goes to work, no one's in the city. So which is true. I don't know anyone who goes into the office on a Friday anymore. So therefore, if you were operating, for business lunches, no more. Why would you
on a Thursday?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not about the late lunch. I'm about just lunch instead. Like, I love lunch is great, but to me, I'd way rather go out for lunch on a Saturday than stay in on a Saturday night and go out in the evening.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something still magic, I think, about a nice dinner out on a Saturday. But during the week, if I was seeing friends, the earlier the better. I think.
This was that other point about post-pandemic. So many people have obviously moved out, so or generally don't want to go home and then come back out again.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you guys, but I don't really want to go for dinner much later than 7:30, because otherwise I've got
hanging around.
Yeah, you're hanging around. I mean, obviously there's
work
to do, but that's what the pub's for. But I'm not a big drinker, so I think for me a weeknight 7 o'clock is like.
Yeah, I have to say I went to Jay Sheehy about 4 weeks ago with my dad when he was here, and we had a 7:30 booking Saturday night. Obviously, middle of Soho, it's just off Leicester Square, and it felt like a bygone era to me. It was packed. Don't get me wrong, like everyone was there, but I was like, this is what the world used to be like. And then this Saturday at Spring, our booking was 5:30.
Oh, heaven.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, we didn't want to hang around because we'd gone to that Cézanne exhibition. Our time ticket was 3, so we did an hour and a half, walked back down the embankment to Spring. It was
nice.
No, that's
lovely.
great.
Yeah.
Was it empty? Because I do have a bit of a bugbear about going into a restaurant when there's 1 or 2 tables there and it's quite quiet and you feel the staff.
And
the staff kind of all like.
That.
I don't know. I it almost puts me off.
I think it depends on the restaurant. Like somewhere like Spring, I wouldn't mind that because it's like you're in a good place. But there's something about going somewhere new and you're like, oh my god, am I like on holiday? If you walk in and you're the only people in there, you're like,
yeah.
Also, I tried to move it earlier, and when I phoned them, they said, 5:30 is our first sitting, and I was like, oh, okay. And I did expect it literally to be like chink chink.
Yeah.
But when we got in there, I think we were the last table. Free.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I think because Spring does this thing which people should be aware of called scratch menu.
Oh yeah, that's such a good thing.
Yeah. So if you between 5:30 and 6 every night of the week, they do a scratch menu, 3 courses for £25.
What? Why is it called scratch?
Because they're using up all of their waste, not like stuff that's gone off, obviously, Lou, before you freak out.
Of course, this has come up again. Yeah,
of course it has. But everything that would go to waste. So all of their stuff from the week that they haven't been able to, people haven't ordered it or whatever.
Cool.
That's so good because
3
normally like a
courses.
main is £25.
So, but what kind of thing would that like?
Just whatever they have available. I think they
it's
sort of
like
it's like a crust.
There's one sardine for you. You can have this.
So the risk you take, obviously, is that you don't get a menu. you go in and you say, and they say, are you here for scratch? And you say yes or no. And if you say yes, you just get the 3 courses served to you. There's no choice. There's no choosing. However, most people, I would say, in there at our time were having scratch.
Yeah.
And
You weren't.
we didn't, just because we just booked in for a different reason. But everything they brought looked exactly the same standard as what we had ordered.
I mean, you'd imagine.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect
Yeah,
anything
you
less
wouldn't.
from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
That's really good to
It's a
know.
really good scheme to know, because there were also, what's quite nice is because of the price, it attracts quite a lot of young people. So spring can be sometimes a bit on the older side, obviously, because of the price can be prohibitive. But at that particular point in the evening, it was like very young and
Young and fresh. Interesting. Well, I guess a happy hour does that. So, so if you get there early, you often catch a happy hour or an oyster happy hour, which is my favourite kind of happy hour. Okay, interesting. Well, if you do like eating late, then continue to do so, because we've got to keep those restaurants in business.
Also, I've got a feature going next week on the best late night restaurants to book, so look out for that if you're a late diner.
Well, or like a nice snack after the theatre.
Exactly.
Like we've all been there, but for me, 6:30. Sweet spot. Right, let's do some quick fire questions before we go. How to keep a stylish life when faced with financial hardships. I mean, it's kind of an unavoidable topic, isn't it? I feel like it comes up with everything that we talk about. Obviously, we know whatever you're earning, everybody's feeling the pinch a little bit more because the cost of living is just rocketed. So what is a hack that you guys have for feeling polished if you're not going to be going and spending a load of money on new clothes or beauty treatments? Heather?
One, I don't paint my nails very often, but when I do, it's an occasion. But I got some new nail polish because we had a chocolate brown nail colour trend piece on the site and I was influenced by it. So
They look lovely.
It's biosculpture, so I was pleased with that. But I think otherwise, at the moment, I'm like everything, not saying that I'm really stylish, but like everything I'm wearing now, I've had for years.
Yes,
and
you do look very
years.
stylish today.
And I think it's just trying to wear things in new ways and just try and remembering. Like, I haven't worn this shirt for ages. It's the one that everyone had in the office many years ago, but I've still kept it. I think just trying to think about how you can reinvent what you've already got and just wear it with different things.
And I think where it could be that, a few years ago you wore that in a certain way.
Exactly.
And almost reinventing the way you then wear it and what you wear it with. And I think that almost gives those products a new lease of life as well.
Exactly.
Harriet?
Probably hair. That's probably the most important thing to me. I do not colour my hair in the sense of like it being highlighted or massively high maintenance. I just usually get a gloss. And now there are so many good ones.
Loads of really good ones. I do that occasionally.
We've written about some of them on the site, so you can easily look up the ones I mean. But they could not be easier to do yourself.
And I'm dark-haired folk with
I know.
glosses.
It does. Yeah, that is the only thing. It does sort of lend itself more to the brunettes and the blondes out there. Soz. But yeah, I feel
some
like
good Josh Wood ones, and you
great
just
Josh Wood ones.
wash your hair, putting it on for 15 minutes, and then wash it out, and it's like
Makes a big difference.
looks nice and
And I had
shiny.
one from Kerastase that was like actually billed as a mask, not even a gloss, but it was designed for brunettes. And you could tell, because you had to put gloves on to use it, that it was probably a gloss formulation. And I swear it made the biggest difference. I haven't used it in a while, but it's, there are some great ones out there.
Okay.
You don't need to be paying a salon price to make yourself feel a bit fresher.
Love that. Lou?
2. One is probably quite obvious, but really looking after your clothes. I think the power of an iron on a blouse, a pair of jeans, like trousers, anything like that can really make such a difference with how presentable you look. Equally, a debobbler to a knit that has kind of really got.
Can I ask you, can I debobble this? Like, what can you debobble all?
Everything.
This is cashmere.
Yeah.
You see, so that
so
I'm just always so scared of like
so
tearing
I
it
would
apart.
use I prefer a comb rather than an electric one because I think it's much softer. So you literally just get a comb and you literally just kind of
go like
softly
that.
bring it
Because
down.
isn't that sad? Like I've only had this 2 months. Yeah.
The risk I've read is that it thins your jumpers.
That's my worry.
I think it's probably how you really don't need to do it that hard, and I think you can just gently glide over it,
you want
and
it to
you'll
surface
be
level.
totally,
Yeah.
and you'll be surprised how much comes off when you do it. Anyway, I
There's
just
quite a
think
lot of
like
dog hair on this as
to an
well,
expensive knit, it can really make a difference.
And electric too harsh.
For me, like some people swear by them. Just for me personally, I just prefer like having a bit more control over it. With
Is there
a
one in
brush.
particular that you recommend?
No, I mean they're all literally for a lot of knit brands actually you get sent them.
Yeah.
The other thing I really like the idea of is doing a clothes swap. I think if you have friends who've got similar style to you and you feel like you're wearing the same thing all the time and they are as well, just like swapping a few pieces and for a couple of weeks, whatever, getting a bit more variety out of your style, their style. I just think it's such a nice idea.
Such a nice idea. Yeah. I don't really have that many friends who I would swap clothes with. But lovely if you do.
I used to live with my sister when we both were first in London, and we used to just rate each other's wardrobes all the time.
Oh my god, at
miss
uni,
that.
like for nights out, like
exactly.
the most fun.
It's like so fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like obviously there's so many rental opportunities out there, which is amazing, but also can be quite costly. So if you find someone that's got a similar style to you, or make an Instagram friend and say,
Yeah.
I think it's really relevant for like events and party season as well. Like Polly lent you her shoes.
She did. I know. They were great. I would say start a new little saving account, which even if you just put in 20, 30, 40, whatever you can afford that you won't notice, put that in there for a rainy day, but a treat yourself rainy day. So that might be that by, I don't know, June, you can buy that summer dress that you've wanted or those pair of sandals that you've been hankering after. But those things build up quite quickly. So if you just start another little pot, that's quite a nice way to treat yourself when the going gets tough. The other thing as well is to buy makeup. I mean, they always say that the sales of lipsticks go through the roof when there's a financial crisis. And it really does make a difference. You can feel like you've really done something fresh on you just by adding a new eyeliner or lipstick or whatever it might be. So that over clothes.
Yeah, or nail varnish.
Exactly. All right, I think we will leave it there. Thank you so much, everybody. Please do email podcast@SheerLuxe.com if you have any feedback. We love hearing from you. Don't forget to look out for the question box on social every weekend. Please also rate, review, subscribe and tell your friends. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.